I tried my best to sound confident and sure, as he gazed up at me. "The kitchen really wants it," I breathed, giving his hair a gentle tug with my fists to show my conviction.
Edward's point of view. I fought to keep my eyes open as her little hands gently tugged my hair and I gazed up at her from her breast. My mind had been in the fucking gutter all day long after the meadow, thinking about her breasts and my hands, and my palm in between her legs, and not to even mention all those sounds, or my name rolling off her tongue as she came for me. I was completely prepared to swallow all that shit down when she came, and even while I was eating. But I wasn't prepared for the feeling that coursed through me as she sat in front of me on the bed. I wanted to pull her onto my lap and feel her up again. I wanted to throw her down and lay on top of her, between her legs, and feel them just wrap the fuck around me as I kissed her senseless. It made me so goddamn nervous, because this was my girl. She slept next to me every night in this bed, and our relationship had obviously escalated to a new sexual level. It was staring us in the face as the atmosphere between us became charged and warm. It wasn't like we could rewind and forget about it. And if I was being honest with myself, I didn't really want to. And it was already painfully obvious that the sentiment was shared rather mutually. The kitchen metaphor was my last attempt at voicing my guilt for the entire fucking urge. She was right that we loved each other. That shit was solid. And she wanted it. Really wanted it. I didn't miss the emphasis there. But that didn't mean we could just fucking plow ahead like Alice and Jasper. I had to be more responsible with my girl, and that the desensitization was a process. I expelled a rather shaky breath as I leaned into her breast once more with my nose gazing into her big brown eyes, and slowly tipping my head up so that my lips barely rested on the peak. "You should probably ease the kitchen into it," I whispered against her breast as I held her sides and rubbed them soothingly with my thumbs, and fought against the urge to just wrap my mouth around her breast. "One step at a time and all that bullshit," I breathed, kind of fucking pleading with my eyes for her patience. It was obvious the technique was breaking her barrier. But slowly, she sighed, making her breast momentarily leave my lips and gazing down at me with a small smile.
"I'm sure the kitchen would be comfortable with that,"
she whispered while stroking my hair. I rolled my eyes and smiled against her breast, getting pretty fucking tired of the kitchen metaphor. I grasped her sides and leaned away from her chest, using my strength to nudge her sideways off of my lap. She eased down onto the bed beside me, looking at me forlornly as she left my embrace. But I fell back onto the mattress, lying with my head on the pillows. I reached forward, pulling on her hand, and bringing her down beside me gently. We turned to each other, much like we did when we went to sleep. She glanced at me curiously as I lifted my hand and cupped her little warm cheek in my palm, rubbing it with my thumb and scooting closer to her. I kept my gaze on her big brown curious eyes as I leaned in to put my lips on hers. She didn't ask any questions, of course. My girl fucking loved kissing me. I sighed against her lips, taking her bottom in between mine just the way we liked, and sucking gently. The soft slow kisses were divine, warm and damp as she pressed her little body against mine. We kisses soft and slow like that for a while, a lot like we did on New Year's. Just enjoying each other's lips with loving caresses and sighs. I allowed the kiss to slowly escalate, introducing my girl to the teenage hormonal motherfucker inside of me in gradual doses as I pressed against her lips more firmly, bringing her face closer to mine as our breathing deepened. She pushed her tongue into my mouth, sighing as I massaged her tongue with mine gently at first. I stroked her cheek as I made to deepen the kiss, tilting my head against the pillow, and leaning further towards her to thrust my tongue into her mouth with more urgency. She made a little mewing sound that made my blood boil as her hands made their way to my hair, tugging lightly, while I pushed against her tongue. Always with the fucking hair pulling. I allowed it to escalate further as I pressed into her body, and shoved my tongue deeper into her mouth. It didn't take her long to fist those little hands in my hair completely, pulling me closer, and gasping at the feel of my erection pressed against her. Her tongue became more fervent against mine, as she pulled me closer, and began panting into my mouth, in a way that made me moan. After a few moments of the urgent kissing, she hitched her leg over my hip, shifting against me and moaning breathlessly into my mouth, as her grip on my hair tightened. Usually I would have pulled away, or stopped her, but that shit wasn't going to get us anywhere. Unfortunately, we were already panting into each other's mouths, so I pulled away, leaving us both gasping for air as I began kissing my way down her jaw and throat. She grasped my hair tighter, pressing me into her neck as she tightened her leg around me to bring me closer. I licked and kissed her neck until I heard her breathing return to normal. Then I just fucking worked my way back to her mouth without even opening my eyes, and began kissing her again, letting her thrust her tongue in between my lips once more and massaging it with my own, as she pressed my face closer. I was doing my best to let her lead, but resolving to leave the exact pace of it to myself. Okay, so there was no fucking precedence that I could find on desensitization for sexual relations. No literature or reference for me to study on that particular topic. And whether it happened tomorrow or 2 years from now, my girl and I were definitely wanting some sexual relations. So I just started where all normal teenage hormonal motherfuckers our age usually began. I made out with my girl for 3 fucking hours. And not the sweet loving kind we had on New Year's either. The love and sweetness was still there as I stroked her cheek and she caressed my hair, but there was lust in these kisses. A whole shitload of it. She pressed herself so completely against me as she battled with my tongue that I could feel her breasts on my chest, which just made me groan into her mouth. I kissed down and up her neck plenty of times, and she fucking liked it. Moaning and humming, and pulling my hair. As my erection grew impossibly harder between us, she liked that shit too, occasionally shifting against it and making me groan into her skin and mouth breathlessly. I didn't grope her breasts, resolving to keep shit light and ease her into it at first. And when we began growing tired, I let the kisses lose their urgency gradually. Our fervent kisses dwindled to sweet, slow, wet, breathless specks on red and swollen lips as we both opened our eyes at the same time, spending a few more moments doing the sweet, loving kisses as we gazed into each other's eyes. And just like that, without even having to say cookie, or me having to pull away from her, we both knew it was time to go bed. The corners of our lips lifted in 2 small smiles as we extracted ourselves from each other's grasps and finished our nightly routine. I was expecting some frustration at the simplicity of the whole thing. Just kissing, and no fucking groping or orgasms. But there was none to be found when we finally slipped under the covers and assumed our sleep position. Patiently horny. I held the bag in my hand and fucking frowned at it, running my fingers through my hair and glancing at my girl dismally as she stood by my bedside table. I mean, it was her first orgasm. Pretty significant shit. After our day in the meadow, I had mentally prepared myself for all kinds of cookie names. I was so fucking creative too. Oatmeal orgasms, explosive cream puffs, euphoric pecan palms, satisfaction sugar cookies, peanut butter change-up panties. Of course, as my smugness grew, the names did too, and the recipes began sounding horrifically disgusting. Double raspberry walnut. My boyfriend is so fucking skilled that he got me off through my jeans with one hand. Cherry chocolate chip delights? Nope. None of those things. Goddamned macadamia unicorns. And they weren't even shaped like unicorns. Yep. Total pride fuck. I quirked an eyebrow at her from the headboard as I ran my fingers through my hair. Unicorn? I asked dryly, trying to mask my injured dignity, as her face slowly transformed into a smirk. She snickered lightly while pulling her hair back up into a ponytail.
It's a euphemism of sorts.
She blushed, looking down and picking up her bag. The blush gave it away. But I furrowed my brows at her as she straightened up, wanting to know the connection between orgasms and unicorns. She rolled her eyes at me and slung her bag on her back.
Don't ask,
she muttered, shaking her head and walking out the door. I had the cookies for breakfast. But in my mind I gave them my own goddamn name. Because unicorns just didn't fucking work when it came to sexual overtones. Bella came over at 4 to begin dinner. I had already explained the whole charade to Carlisle, who was all too fucking willing to sit at the table with my girl for an hour. I let him give Emmett the politeness speech as I grew nervous over the whole thing. She smiled brightly as I opened